Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Celtic Way. Celtic 2, Aberdeen 2 reaction. A tale of two halves as Celtic dropped their first points of the season. I'm Tony Haggerty at ahaggerty10 on the X handle, and I'm joined by Ryan McGinley at the Ryan McGinley, who's live from Glasgow, somewhere near Celtic Park. As you can see, we've just been doing the work, guys, so thank you for joining us. Ryan, 2 each, top of the table clash between first and second. It kind of lived up to its billing, but Celtic will feel bitterly disappointed that they blew a 2-goal lead in that match. But you have to credit Aberdeen and their manager, Jimmy Tilleen, for making changes that affected the game and the outcome in the end.
Yeah. I think the sort of main person that you can talk about the whole makeup of that game, especially in the second half, was Duke. Because everything was to do with him, honestly. He came on and made a hell of a difference for Aberdeen. I wish he was still AWOL at this moment in time, because it would have meant that he wouldn't have been as involved in the game or involved at all in today's proceedings. But yeah, a tale of two halves. I think you would agree with me in calling it that. Or a tale of two and a bit halves, I was saying as well, because it felt like the game took another swing towards the end with the chances that Celtic had. Good first half, really Celtic really taking advantage of Aberdeen's slackness at the back and getting 2 goals, going ahead 2-0 at the break. Second half was a completely different story. Jimmy Tilleen made good changes, brought on Esther Sockler and Duke, and they both made a massive impact on proceedings. Got a bit lucky, Celtic not conceding a third goal thanks to Duke's touch being with his hand into the back of the net, and Celtic had their chances at the end, but 2 each. It's one of those games that I don't really know what to think about it, because I'm like, is it 2 points dropped? Is it a point gain, considering where Celtic were midway through the second half? I think it's the former. I think Celtic have dropped points today with the chances that they had in the final 10 minutes of the game. They should have had that game wrapped up. But so be it. If you're going to drop points to anybody, at least it was Aberdeen, and they're not ahead in the table.
Yeah, I think it's 2 points dropped. The manager said that Celtic should have won that game, and on another day they maybe win 3-2, 4-2 or 5-2, but they didn't. But it's lots to talk about, Ryan. Tremendous first half. It's kind of a game in 3 stages, wasn't it? The first half where Celtic were well in control. First 15 minutes of the second half, but they just collapsed. And had Aberdeen been given that goal that Duke scored with his hand, I don't think Celtic would have come back and won that game. I've got to be honest, Ryan. I think they would have lost, because momentum was certainly with Aberdeen at that point. So they got a break there. Lots of chat about the handball incident with Duke at the end. I was very inconclusive, Ryan. I'd be the first screaming for a penalty. I think it grazes his thigh and then up and hits his arm, but it's pretty inconclusive for me. So I guess the on-field decision stands if it's inconclusive. What people are screaming, it's a handball, but it's not as clear-cut as lots of people are saying it is.
Between that and the fact that the angle isn't very good as well,
Yeah.
and all the angles that I've seen, it isn't conclusive, in my opinion. It's one of those ones that if it was on the other end and it was given against Celtic, you'd think that's incredibly harsh, given how they got back into the game.
Yeah.
If you were to turn it complete 180 and say that Celtic were down 2-0 and they got to 2 each and they get given a penalty for that, you would say it's very, very harsh. It would have been especially harsh on Duke, because he scored a third goal, which was given off because it was a handball. So I'm not sure if I want to go as far in saying that 2 each was a fair result, because I think with the chances that Celtic had, Celtic should have won the game. But you make your own luck in these games, and I'll need to think about this game before I have any conclusive thoughts on it, to be honest.
Yeah. What I will say, and I know people will maybe have a pop in the comments, but for me, Liam Scales switching off is criminal defending and losing his marker and losing Esther Sockler. And he puts it away well. It's a wonderful pass from Jamie McGrath, but I have to say, Liam Scales' positional sense times just worries me. It's worried me long before now, but he seems to get away with it at times, but there are other times he doesn't, and he gets cruelly punished. It was punished by Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup semi-final last season. And I know he's been Celtic's best defender at the start of this season because Cameron Carter-Vickers has been missing for long periods. But that ability to switch off like that, it offers Aberdeen a lifeline back into the mix, Ryan. And you just can't do that as a central defender. You have to be spatially aware at all times. And these things cost you. And I think that, and then Dyson Maeda, and I'm not going to spare him the rod because Dyson Maeda gave the ball away in Europe against Dortmund, and people were saying, "Oh, well, they'll ruthlessly punish you." It can happen domestically. And Dyson Maeda giving that ball away, which led to the second goal, was also criminal. You just can't do that because that's what happens. Teams run at you at pace and know what they're doing and have a game plan. And I'm not accepting a shrug of the shoulders today and saying, "Oh, that's just Dyson." No, Dyson, you have to look after the football better.
He was extremely poor today. Probably, I would go as far to say Celtic's worst player on the park today, and that's saying something. With some of the defensive performances, I thought he was absolutely ineffectual in the game. He gave absolutely nothing. Yes, he was trying. Yes, he was running. You're going to get that, but he offered absolutely nothing to the game, which was disappointing. Although I don't think he was helped by the fact that it was an up and down game for Baye. There was some good things that he did, some not so good things that he did. But I think that after watching him a couple of times, I think that Dyson Maeda plays better when Greg Taylor's in the team in terms of spacing and positional awareness. Baye does not have positional awareness just yet. It's something that he'll need to be taught in the coming weeks and months because he is erratic. He's erratic in defensive work, and that hurts Maeda's game as well.
And it won't be long before we're having a conversation about Engels. Excellent first half. Disappeared the second half. Literally disappeared. And he was in about everything in the first half. Hit the bar, missed a chance. Stephen Mitchell coming in, Engels concerning anyone else. I think we spoke off air and you said that you really want to see Engels when it gets back to 2 each. You want to see him grab the game by the scruff of the neck. He grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck in the first half. He was involved in a lot of good stuff. But it went to 2-1 and then 2 each. He was in the midfield alongside McGregor, who had his worst game for a long time as well. And Hatate, who had a tremendous first half. These guys fell off a cliff in the second half, or for that period, they just weren't to be seen, were they? Or is it me?
From the 50th to the 60th minute, Celtic went in a bit of a self-destruct mode, and it all started with Scales' positional sense for the first goal.
There's no running away from that, Ryan.
If you're struggling positionally and you're a left-sided defender, and you've got Alex Baye, who also struggles with the positional side of the game, then it's a recipe for disaster down that side. And it was a great ball by Jamie McGrath, not the first time that he's had a good appearance against Celtic. He usually has a good game against Celtic, whether it's Aberdeen, Aberdeen, Dundee United, whoever he's playing for, he usually shows up well against Celtic. A great ball to Sockler and a great finish from Sockler too. Don't think Kasper Schmeichel can do anything about that finish. It's a well-taken finish from the striker's perspective. It was just 10 minutes of absolute self-destruct button getting pressed by Celtic.
You can't have that. You can't have that against a team who are joint top of the table with you and have won as many games as you, and they're playing, possibly above themselves and out their skin. And somebody saying in the comments, Scott Dougal saying it's a bit harsh on Engels. I remember he's still settling in. I get that, but I'm talking about his ability to drift out a match as much as you can drift in it. It's something that I've noticed. When he's in a match, he's great. I mean, hit the crossbar, slashed one wide, great pass for Kyogo to set Kyogo away which is squared for Hatate for the first goal, and generally bossing it in that first half, and then came out in the second half and just didn't turn up. He, alongside Hatate and McGregor and Scales, being the catalyst for Aberdeen getting back in the game, but Jimmy Tilleen making necessary changes to get themselves back into the. I mean, you have to big up that, and I have to big up Aberdeen as well and say they didn't fold and capitulate at 2-0. They could have easily have done that, but they didn't. They came out and they made a game of it, and Celtic fans can't have it both ways. They scream out every other time we go into Europe, there's no challenging, the domestic league. Celtic were given a challenge today and were found wanting for that 15-20 minute spell in the second half, and that's what undone all their good work in the first half. Granted, they threw the kitchen sink at Aberdeen the last 20 minutes and probably should have won the game, Ryan. I have to say the manager was right there in that one.
I completely agree. The chances, I mean, some really great saves from Dimitar Mitov at the end from that double chance. He got a save and then it was blocked off the line by Duke. So you get the chance that fell to James Forrest that he should have scored that went just wide of the post. There was another chance that James Forrest had that he just blew over the bar for whatever reason. It was a waste. You're like, instead of doing that and taking that low percentage shot, pass it on to your next man. I wouldn't have been against them trying to play the ball into the back of the net, try to pass it into the back of the net. It looked as if that was the route to go, by looking for a cut and pass and looking for a tap in. You get the other chance that Adamida had. Yes, he headed the goal and it was a foul from Johnson on the goalkeeper. I don't think anybody expected that goal to stand. Goalkeepers are a protected species, but even that, it was a foul on the goalkeeper. But the one that really annoyed me, or not annoyed me, but it baffled me, was when Adamida took the free kick and it was touched onto him by that. I didn't understand that. I thought it would have been a better opportunity for Nicholas Kuhn or Paulo Bernardo to hit it straight off from a dead ball situation rather than giving the Aberdeen players a chance to block the shot. I've got to say, as much as there's question marks over Arne Engels, and that's to be expected because he's had maybe roughly the same sort of mixed games as he has had good games now in his fledgling Celtic career. But I think there's question marks over Adamida as well and how much he can bring to the team at $8.5 million. And I'll make the point for Austin Trusty as well, because the jury is still out on him. That's 3 players. You've got Arne Engels that cost £11 million. You've got Austin Trusty that cost £6 million. That's £17 million. You've then got Adam Ida, who cost £8.5 million. Let me do my maths quickly. About £25 million, £25.5 million on those 3 players. You're expecting better results from those 3 players today when they're coming into the team. Ida was unlucky with a couple of chances. I get that, but just his overall play, in my opinion, leaves a lot to be desired at times. I don't think he could do that same assist that Kyogo did today, and that's probably the difference between the 2 players. Yes, there's plenty of gears to go with him, and you're buying potential with him, but that rustiness could cost Celtic in games as well. I know he'll score a lot of goals in the death for Celtic, and big goals at that. He's already done so in his career for Celtic so far, but in games like that where you need a player to be that needs to be a cold-hearted killer in front of goal, he wasn't that today, unfortunately. There's a lot of his game that still leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I think he will get better as time goes on. He's a long-term project, but right now, you're going with Kyogo to start games, aren't you?
Yeah, you are, but again, Kyogo, he scored and he assisted, which is his job.
He was Celtic's best player today because of that, in my opinion.
Kyogo
just by
was,
default. Yeah, just by default, unfortunately. A goal and an assist, if you're a striker, that's his job, and his assist for the first goal is exactly what Brendan Rodgers wants Kyogo to do, by drifting out wide, providing an out ball for Celtic, and then Hatate ran into the pit, ran into the middle of the park and got a great shot away. I thought it was a well-worked goal from all angles, or all angles, as he got the key pass to Kyogo and then Hatate. But if they played like that for the full 90, they would have won that game very comfortably. But the levels dropped, and when your levels drop against a decent side, don't know too much about Aberdeen's credentials as title contenders just yet. I'll need to see it up until Christmas and otherwise, and maybe a wee bit further on from then. But they're a good side. They're clearly a good side and a well-managed side. And if you allow a team like that a chance back into the game, they're going to take it.
Yeah, their levels dropped significantly enough that Celtic dropped points. And that's the worry. I don't... From what I saw today, can Aberdeen sustain that over the course of the season? I'm not so sure. Because when Celtic were dominant and on top in the first half, they didn't really offer much. It was the changes that the manager made. So you have to big up his changes and the players that came on that made a big difference. Sockler and Duke, who were involved in getting Aberdeen back into the game and also a match-winning clearance. You can argue the toss, whether it's a penalty or not, still inconclusive enough for me. And I'd be the first screaming for a penalty. Thought Nick Walsh talking about erratic, I thought his performance was erratic today, and that's me being kind. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to blame the referee. The referee's not to blame for Celtic dropping 2 points, but we want consistency. And Nick Walsh's thought consistency was playing advantage as often as possible. But there's no advantage when there's no advantage. He still booked Graham Shinney for his first clattering of Vi, which was pretty cynical.
He didn't give a foul.
Nasty. He never gave a foul. Correct.
And it wasn't as if he played on.
And he clattered into Vi with an absolute, you know what I mean? And even, I think VAR was even at one point considering a red card for dangerous play. Never even booked him. No. So, as I say, thought Nick Walsh was erratic. And then you wanted to bring something up about the corner, didn't you, at the end?
I don't understand why that corner wasn't taken. There was plenty of time left, in my opinion, when you look at the amount of time that Dimitar Mitov was wasting in the goal. From every goal kick that happened, it was at least 25 to 30 seconds every time. Why is that not getting counted? It sounds like sour grapes because Celtic have dropped points, but it's a clear point.
Bearing in mind
a clear point to make.
The 10 minutes added on time is the minimum. Mm-hmm. It's discretionary. The referee can add on time for time wasting and injury time. So that there should have been enough time for the corner kick to be taken. As you say, don't want preferential treatment. You just want fairness and the rules applied fairly. But I think Nick Walsh didn't cover himself in glory today, but I don't want to dwell too much on that. I think lots of Celtic players didn't cover themselves in glory. McCowan and Bernardo made a difference when they came on again. Celtic took the game to them. McCowan's inches away from winning his team a penalty. That was just outside the box. So there you go. But you know, Celtic were poor for that 15-20 minute spell in the second half, and they paid a heavy price, Ryan.
They did, and they lost all control of the game in that 15 minutes and allowed Aberdeen, a team that were 2-0 down. You know, they shouldn't have been confident going into the second half. They came out with a renewed sense of optimism. They must have seen something in Celtic's game that they could exploit. Maybe the back line, maybe the way Bailly was playing, the way Scales was playing. I thought Scales was actually having a really good game in the first half, as well as Trusty. But there was a lot of rewrites that had to happen in the player ratings, unfortunately. I like rewriting them for positive reasons, but unfortunately they weren't positive because... And I've got to give Scales credit because he got Alex Bailly out of jail. Alex Bailly, for whatever reason, and this has happened about three or four times in his Celtic career already in the 2 or 3 games that he's played, he seems to lose all control of his feet and his legs and totally fall on the ground. And you can't do that as a left back. Maybe you can do that as a winger or a striker. You'll get away with it. You just go for the next chance. But as a left back, to lose control like that and to give away possession, Liam Scales got him out of a hole because that would have been his fault. I look back to that Falkirk game. I look at the chances that he gave away due to being too weak. Although I think that the first one was a foul, the second one maybe not so much against Falkirk. But a pattern is beginning to emerge in his defensive frailties, unfortunately. Between that and the fact he looks quite lightweight on the ball as well, maybe he needs to... I don't want to say go to the gym and that because you don't know a player's routine, but there was some good parts from Alex Bailly today, but some really subpar performances in certain areas. He's crossing and he's defending, things that he needs to work on.
Got IKEA legs, Ryan. Collapsible legs. Is that what you're saying? Yeah?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the commenters, it's gone up in a way, but saying stop making excuses. We're not making excuses. We're poring over what we believe happened today. I don't know if that's aimed at myself and Ryan. I think where is it? I'll try and find it. Richard, stop the excuses.
Tony, I think we're just being objective. You've got to call a spade in games.
If that seemed to us, Richard, I'd like you to come back in and just expand on that a wee bit. It's as I say, myself and Ryan are on here, win, lose or draw, and we drew today, and we've bigged up Aberdeen for their performance and coming from 2 down and not capitulating, and Celtic for capitulating in the second half. If I was making excuses, I would have said there, Ryan, that Liam Scales was good, that mistake apart. It was Liam Scales' switching off that led to Aberdeen getting a lifeline back in a contest in which they were dead. and you just can't have that. So, as I say, Richard, you want to come back in and let us know, because we are being pretty objective here in terms of our after-match analysis. It wasn't a good result. I agree with the manager that Celtic should have won, and they had a poor start to the second half, incidentally, in which they had a chance to make it 3-0, Ryan.
I don't understand what Kyogo's doing. He's trying to play his way into the back of the net. You put your laces through it. I know it sounds, I don't know, it sounds like pure agricultural football, but just put your laces through it, Kyogo, and if it hits off a player and gets a deflection, doesn't matter, it'll head in the back of the net. I just think, if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery, and that's exactly what Graham Shinnie did. He took a chance. Granted, I think that was the only thing he did in the game, apart from persistently fouling Celtic's players and moaning at the referee. Not the first time that Graham Shinnie has done that in a Celtic game or a Rangers game or any game. In fact, he is a bit of a moaner when he's on the pitch. But
if Nick Walsh does his job and books him in the opening exchanges, he's on a tightrope. And it was a booking. And he never even blew for a foul. And as I say, I'm not interested in them saying, you give the benefit of the play on. There's no advantage if there is no advantage, Ryan. I can't stress that enough. Advantage is meant to favour a team. But when a guy goes in and clatters one of your players, and it's the first noticeable thing that he does in a football match, and it's worthy of a booking, and you don't even pull it up for a foul, there is no advantage there. That's just a nonsense. So, administer the rules.
But even that, the fact that Nielsen had at least 3 or 4 professional fouls, the number 6, and it was actually pointed out by Nick Walsh when he was given the booking. You had this foul, this foul, this foul. Every single one of those fouls could have been yellow cards, but he allowed the game to play on. I think the best. So
many did he count? Did he count 4 or 5?
4 or 5. I was watching it. It was just persistent fouling, and it killed the game. Celtic had the 10 minutes at an injury time to get that goal. I don't think that they played the full 10 minutes, if I'm being perfectly honest. That's my sort of sour grapes analysis of it. At least they should have had the corner, because you look at it like this, the VAR check was going on for at least a minute and a half. Was that not time that should have been allocated back into the game at before full time? Because Celtic could have got the corner and put another ball into the box. Aberdeen, probably on the balance of playing the way that they got back into the game, deserved a point because they actually had the chance to make it 3-2. But on the other hand, Celtic had more than enough chances. And at the end of the day, if you don't take your chances, then you can't score more goals. And Celtic haven't scored more goals because they haven't taken their chances as many as they had, something like 32, Brendan Rodgers was talking about after the game. If you have those amount of chances and you only score 2 goals, that's wastefulness. It doesn't matter if you scored 2 goals on the day. It's wasteful in front of goals. You'd be scoring 5, 6, 7 with that amount, if we're being perfectly honest.
Yeah. Now, Richard has come back in, and I asked if it was aimed at yourself and myself. He says it was, mate. Celtic didn't win. Don't hold on to penalty shouts at where the penalties. Celtic were 2-0 up and blew it. I'm not holding on to anything. What did I say? It was inconclusive. I said, so the on-field decision stands. Richard, part of watching a podcast is to listen to what the guys are saying, so that's fair enough. If you're going to say that in the comment section, I have the right to reply to that. So I'm not making any excuses. Celtic did blow it. I wrote my instant analysis and I said Celtic blew it. They blew a 2-goal lead.
They did blow it, but they should have won the game at the same time.
Yeah, but the two things can be true. And I also said that had Duke's goal stood for 3-2 Aberdeen, I don't see Celtic coming back into it. I don't think they would have got anything from it. So I think we're being as objective as
from
possible.
From where I was seated, Tony, when that goal was given as a handball on Duke, there was a roar in the stadium. It was almost like a goal had been scored.
Correct.
And from that point, I'm not sure how long the game had to go. I'd need to double check that actually, how long the game had before it was something like 15, 16 minutes, plus the added time that you would have coming on inevitably. I thought that Celtic would score 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3 in the final 15 minutes. But
But to be fair, they pummeled them. They threw the kitchen sink at Aberdeen, and a mixture of last gasp, wonderful defending, and terrific goalkeeping. Richard, I don't fall out with anybody, Richard. There's no makeup. He just gutted that. I think lots of Celtic supporters are gutted. And top man, Richard. Thanks for contributing as well. It all makes for good debate and good talking points. Appreciate it, bud. Thank you. We don't fall out with anyone. We're a broad church here, and even if there's some Aberdeen fans in the comment section, you can chime in, guys. We'll try and flick them up as well. I have to say, as a top of the table clash, it did live up to its billing. It was an exciting game. And as you said, Ryan, there was 3 bits to it, weren't there? There was the first half where Celtic were very commanding, very dominant. There was the collapse where Aberdeen came right back into it. And then there was the kitchen sink stuff from Celtic for the last however many minutes and the injury time. And as I say, on another day, Celtic probably would have won that game 3-2, 4-2. 5-2 possibly, but sometimes when you're riding high at the top, things go for you, and I think lots of things went for Aberdeen today, apart from the Duke incident, but they got their bodies in front of things. Celtic missed a right good few chances in that last spell. I mean, the manager's pointed out, was it 32 shots at goal? He said 32 odd, he said so. But my concern is the fact that Celtic are making the same mistakes, especially defensively. And, and I don't like singling people out, but he's a repeat offender. Liam Scales switching off and being positionally, not being positionally and spatially aware. It happened in the semi-final last season against Aberdeen at Hampden. There's a League Cup semi-final coming up soon. And but I'm also giving credit for Jimmy Chalene and somebody in the comments has just made Kaiser, in fact. Hi Kaiser, how you doing? Neil Sims is spot on. The manager adapted it and Aberdeen played well. He's saying safe trip home to you, right? The manager did adapt, and Celtic couldn't handle it in the second half for that period. Well, the manager said they refused to press, they weren't compact as normal. And they just they fell out the game.
Did you how many corners do you think that Celtic had in that game?
I don't know actually, but I would have said a fair few.
18 corners. See, with 18 corners and you've not got a single goal out of 18 corners, then that's a problem. Especially with the.
They had a few headers in it, goal but in the corners, didn't they? I know Austin Trusty did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But despite the fact that Arne Engels has great delivery, they took a lot of short corners today, much to my dismay and dislike, of which nothing ever comes from a short corner. I can't remember a short corner routine ever working. Somebody can let me know, because I'm sure they have. But to my knowledge, Arne Engels can get that whip on it. Yeah, they were taking them short, and that annoys me, especially when you send big guys forward. I'm all for sending big guys forward and then trying to find them with the head.
Yeah, I know. I'm just having a look at these other stats, Tony. 32 total shots in the game, only 7 on target. That's including the 2 goals. That's not enough, unfortunately. And you can't expect, with the way that Celtic were defending, the way that they were going to win that game was by just being more clinical than Aberdeen. It was a firefight in that second half, and Celtic just had to be clinical. Unfortunately, all their goals came in the first half, and they didn't get any in the second. Big chances, Celtic had 4 compared to Aberdeen's 2. They took both of their big chances missed. Aberdeen missed 1 of theirs. Celtic missed 3 of their other big chances. Accurate passes, Celtic had a 90% passing accuracy of 621 total passes. Fouls committed 12 to Aberdeen's 15, which baffles me, to be honest, because it felt like Aberdeen were fouling all over the park. I don't understand the refereeing and things in that. 0 offsides for Celtic and 18 corners. That's an absolutely incredible number. 73% possession. It didn't feel like that for a part in the second half. It felt like Aberdeen had a lot of the ball in certain areas. And at the start of the game as well, I thought they really started the game quite well before self-destructing on their own with the two chances, particularly that second goal. That second goal was a terrible goal to concede because it felt as if Celtic were just lining up to take the chances, and they had chances. Celtic had other chances in the first half to get further ahead.
Yeah, I'm not excusing Dyson Maider's role in the second goal. It's dreadful.
I need to watch that back. But I do remember somebody giving the ball away.
Sloppy doesn't begin to cover it. It's criminal. So Neil Simpson coming in and saying, Kaiser, cheers pal, loved the game today, but loved how his team, this is never game in, Jimmy got it spot on in the second half. Blessing to the Celtic family, he's on the way home and everyone stay safe and stand free. Saying, Neil, lovely to hear from you, sir. I hope you clearly did enjoy the game. You took a point in Glasgow. You're pleased with that. Celtic fans disappointed with their team showing, but I think you can be proud of your team showing. As for Aberdeen being title contenders, my personal jury's still out in that. So, Brown Warrior coming in, he did indeed. Sorry, boys, he did call a 2-2 before the game. I felt this wasn't going to be plain sailing. Got to hand it to you, Brown Warrior. You got it spot on. And love it coming in and saying Maida was poor today. Correct. He was poor. Ryan reflected that in his player ratings. I think you gave him a 4, you said, Ryan, didn't you?
He was totally ineffectual. He was totally ineffectual, unfortunately. For whatever reason. Don't know if it was maybe jet lag or the amount of miles that he's had to travel, etc. But he looked leggy today. Unfortunately, nothing that he was doing, and that was maybe down to Jack. Who was it that was up against? He was up against. Was it Jack McKenzie or was it somebody else? Or Nicky Devlin? But whoever he was up against, 1-on-1, was doing a good job on him. The only other player to really manage that this season, apart from the Dortmund players, was Gerald Taylor for Hearts. So fair play to him for keeping Maeda quiet. He's been so good this season. But when both Maeda and Kuhn don't score in a game, there's trouble afoot for Celtic because that's their main sources of goals at the moment. Kyogo's now got a goal closer to them with 5.
And that's his 5th of the season. Yep. Mm-hmm. Kyogo. Yep.
It's good because Kyogo's scoring goals again, which is great to see. Hopefully, he can keep that going in Atalanta and then in Motherwell at the weekend. But I think it's important, Tony, that this. And I talked about this after the Dortmund game, and they responded with that late win against Ross County. That could be part of a bigger picture thing as well, actually, with the way that Celtic have been playing recently, and the fact that the Dortmund game, I think, sort of spooked them a wee bit, and they're not playing as well as what they were beforehand, which is to be expected. And you're playing against good teams, and if good teams hit you for 7, then that's what happens. But it's important that what happened today, and today was a blip, and I've talked about it before, it's important that a blip doesn't become a skid. It could become a skid against that Atalanta, a really good side, and then you get a difficult away trip to Motherwell. I just hope that they bounce back and bounce back positively. Whatever happens in Bergamo, they cannot allow the league form to be affected as well, because we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen last season, how league form can be affected by the big schedule of games. I'd be looking for the likes of Bernardo and McCowan to be coming into the team and freshening things up, especially after Europe.
Funny that, eh? McCowan, I did say that a shout for starting today, and he came on and he made a difference when he came on. And as I say, he's inches away from winning Celtic a penalty kick. We got that free kick, which was squandered near the end. Disappointing, Ryan. I think most Celtic supporters is their overriding feeling.
Yep.
In terms of the game, it lived up to its billing. See, my dogs are upset as well.
Yeah. Do you want me to take over? Yeah. It's weird because I don't think we've learned that much today, if we're being honest, of Aberdeen. We knew that they were going to be fierce competitors. They weren't in the first half. They were in the second half. Probably got what they deserved by sticking in there. Jamie McGrath was given the player of the match. I was just having a look on FotMob. He got an 8.7 out of 10, probably for that pass that he played to Esther Sokler. He always has a good game against Celtic, also it seems. But yeah, it's no damage done yet. We'll see what happens tomorrow with regard to Rangers and Kilmarnock. Could actually be a point gained if Kilmarnock turn up and get a victory over Rangers. I'm not sure what will happen. I'll be watching keenly to see if anything does happen. If Kilmarnock can get a draw maybe, and then nothing changes, then it's just a weekend that everything stays the same. If Rangers win, they get 2 points closer, but would still be 3 points clear, and Aberdeen would still be 3 points clear. That all of a sudden gives Aberdeen even more to play for when the two sides meet in a couple of weeks' time at Pittodrie. I'm already looking forward to watching that game. I don't know about you, Tony.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the semi-final as well. I think
that's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, I think Aberdeen served a warning shot to Celtic today, so that the semi-final that Celtic can't afford to be off it at all. So let's see what Celtic have learned against Aberdeen when the League Cup semi-final rolls around. I want to know that Celtic have learned from today. Aberdeen came and got what they probably wanted. A point out the game, could have got more, but conversely, so could Celtic. So I think Celtic are the more disappointed of the two because they shipped a 2-goal lead, and Aberdeen have got some fighting spirit and quality about them, and their manager, tactically looks a bit astute, sharp and bright, switched on. So good on him.
Yep, I will not be watching the Aberdeen Rangers game. I'll be at Celtic Park watching Celtic v Dundee. Although
I did wonder about that. I was wondering if it was I got it wrong.
I was wondering if it was a Tuesday, Wednesday sort of thing, but that's fine. Celtic will have, you would hope, have the victory wrapped up before the end of that game. Maybe there's some nerves then going to Pittodrie. We're already looking ahead. You're looking at Aberdeen and Rangers. It's only good. It's a good thing for Scottish football. It's not good for Celtic because they've dropped points today, but at the same time, it's fresh. It's refreshing having Aberdeen, and they were refreshing today. The fans came in their numbers, and they were pretty delighted at full time with the draw that they got, because they'll treat that every bit as much as they would a win. To be honest, especially with the way the final 10 minutes was going, they held out. They got their draw that many people will say they deserved. I'm probably going to go on that boat and say, sometimes you'll just get the rub of the green or the luck at the end of a game if you deserve it. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be a long old season, and let's see how everything transpires.
Lots of love for McCowan in the chat. Like he was saying, McCowan is out Sean McGregor and then goes in the last 4 games. I wrote a piece in midweek saying how the manager might turn to McCowan today and give him his first start, but his first start's coming imminently, I would conjecture, Ryan.
Yeah, I would agree with that, although it won't be in the League Cup, unfortunately, as he's cup tied. It's that game against Aberdeen, even though I would probably want him to be playing against Aberdeen, that gritty sort of wee player that just gets into tackles and wants to make things happen. I'd start him at Fir Park, if I'm being honest. It's a perfect game for him to be brought into. I think if you get Engels is going to play against Atalanta, that's what he's been brought in for. Hopefully has a better performance in Europe. But if you're going to do a wee turnaround, put Engels on the bench and put McCowan in that team, and then you can switch between Hatate and Bernardo. I would love it if Celtic get a result in Bergamo. At this point in time, I'm not expecting it with the way that Celtic are playing, with the way that Atalanta are playing, but you never know. And you look to that Motherwell game as a chance to get back to winning ways in the domestic front and put some more pressure on again.
Over 400 people joining us on a Saturday night, 8:20 on Saturday night. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody in the comment section as well. We try and read out as many opinions as possible. But yeah, I guess Celtic go to Italy for Wednesday's clash against Atalanta. Is it another crack fingers job, Ryan, watching like that, do you think? Are you worried?
No, I'm not worried. I know exactly what Atalanta have got. I know how they play under Gasperini. They are a bit of a joy to watch at times when they're in full flow. You've seen that in the Europa League final against Bayer Leverkusen, a team that are far better than Borussia Dortmund, may I add. So we know what they've got. Results can happen in Europe, but it's hope rather than expectation at this point with Celtic. I'm under no illusion at how good Atalanta are, even though they've not had a great start to the season. But as an expert was telling us during the week, they tend to get better as the season goes on. Hopefully Celtic can catch them out on Wednesday night.
Indeed. It's nearly 40 minutes, Ryan. I didn't even think we'd get as much as 40 minutes to dissecting Celtic 2, Aberdeen 2. But yeah, I shall call it a day and let you head home, sir. Another fair shift today from the two of us. But yeah, we shall reconvene on Monday and pour over it with Hamish, no doubt. But yeah, I think disappointment is the biggest takeaway from today, isn't it, Ryan?
Disappointment. And from where Celtic were in the first half, the end of the first half, to where they finished off the game at full time, there will be that disappointment. But there was still positives to take from the game despite dropping points for the first time this season. I liked their fight, I liked their spirit at the end of the game to try and really push it over the line. There was a bit of an empty feeling at full time because I think a lot of people expected the goal to come, especially with the 10 minutes added, and then the chance at the end and the penalty appeals, chance that Bernardo had, the chance that Ida had, Forrest had. They were lining up for chances at the end of the game. It didn't happen for whatever reason, thanks to good defending, good blocks, and poor finishing from Celtic's perspective. But we move on. At least Aberdeen dropped points as well as Celtic is the positive I'm going to take from today's game. If one of us is going to drop points, it might as well be both of us, and we'll watch the game at Rugby Park tomorrow and see what happens regarding the third force in Scottish football.
I agree with the
and
manager.
I don't mean that as a dig to Rangers at all. And that's just where they are at the moment.
Yes, I agree with the manager. The biggest takeaway is you expect to win them all. You know you can't win them all, but a draw at Celtic Park always feels like a defeat, doesn't it? I think that's what the manager, how he summed up his feeling in a match that at the end of the day they probably should have won. But sometimes you have to credit the opposition, and I credit the opposition manager for making changes that affected the outcome of that game today. So hat tip to Jimmy Tilleen and a hat tip to Sockler and Duke for being the guys that dragged Aberdeen back into the contest. And on that note, and the dog's going Toronto.
I'll do the outro.
You do that. That's what you do. Take care.
Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Just quickly before we finish off, if you want to support us just that little bit more, you can join our YouTube members channel for just £2.99 a month. You'll receive early video access, such as a preview of the Atalanta game with an Atalanta expert that's coming out. There'll also be another Grand Old pod coming out, Grand Old Team podcast coming out in the next couple of days, as well as more stuff that will be coming very, very soon. Early video access, priority comments, exclusive members chat function. If you want to get involved, press that join button if you're on the desktop. And thank you very much to everybody for watching. Thank you, Tony, for joining me on today's show. We'll be back on Monday morning to dissect everything about that Celtic Aberdeen game, as well as look ahead to the Atalanta game. Cheers, guys, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.